what tomorrow has seen. There is a moment just before you open your eyes each morning when you belong to no day at all. The night has let go of you, but the day has not yet claimed you. In that small gap, something old is waiting, is watching. Not a person, not a voice, just a quiet perspective that has stood on the other side of every sunrise anyone has ever slept toward. Call it tomorrow. It does not know what will happen to you. It has no power to choose your path, and it carries no secret map of your life. It simply waits on the far side of the night, the way shoreline waits for whatever the tide decides to bring in. And because it has waited there for every person who has ever lived, it has noticed things, small things, the kind of things we are usually too busy to see in ourselves. It has noticed, for instance, that you rarely recognize the last ordinary day before everything changes. You wake up, you complain about the weather, you eat breakfast without tasting it, you say goodbye to someone the way you always do, quickly, almost carelessly, because you assume there will be another goodbye tomorrow to make up for it. Nobody circles that day on a calendar. Nobody says, remember this one, because this is the last time it will be this simple. It just passes, dressed like every other day, and only later, looking back, do you understand that it was carrying something? This is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to slow you down. Just for a moment, the way a person slows down when they walk past the house they used to live in. Think about childhood, not the big events, the birthdays and the trips, but the small, unremarkable minutes sitting on the kitchen floor while someone cooked, waiting by a window for a parent's car to turn onto the streets. The particular sound of your own name being called from another room, in a voice that knew exactly who you were before you knew it yourself. None of this felt important while it was happening. It felt like nothing. It felt like just another Tuesday. And yet these are the moments that quietly built the person you became. The way rain builds a river, one unnoticed drop joining another until one day there is a current strong enough to carry a life. Tomorrow has watched this pattern in every generation. The strongest memories rather announce themselves. They arrive disguised as nothing at all, and only years later do they reveal what they were carrying the whole time. There is a kind of grief in that, but also a kind of mercy, because it means the ordinary days you are living right now, the ones that feel forgettable, the traffic, the dishes, the small conversation with the stranger at the counter, maybe quietly become someone's most treasured memory of you. You will not know which ones, neither will they, not yet. Somewhere in every life there is a room that used to be full and is now still, a chair by a window, a side of the bed that stays made, a voice that used to answer and now does not. Tomorrow has stood in rooms like this more times it can be counted, and it has noticed something strange about them. The silence in these rooms is not empty, it is full of everything that was never said out loud, while there was still time to say it. We tend to believe we have the conversation later. We will call and apologize later. We will finally say I'm proud of you later. We will ask our parents about their own childhoods later. Before it's too late, later. Tomorrow does not tell you when later runs out. It cannot. That knowledge belongs to no created thing, not even to the passing of days themselves, but it has watched enough people arrive at the closed door, letter unopened, phone unanswered, to notice how often later becomes the saddest word in any language. This is not a warning meant to rush you in fear. It is simply an invitation to notice what you already know, quietly somewhere beneath the noise of your own life, that the person you keep meaning to call is still there today. That is not nothing. That is everything, actually dressed as an ordinary Tuesday. Regret has a particular shape, and tomorrow has seen it worn by almost everyone. It rarely looks like the big mistakes people imagine when they picture regret. It's not usually the wrong career or the wrong city. More often it is smaller and stranger than that. It is the apology that was never given because pride felt more urgent than love. It is the years spent chasing an approval that was never going to come from a person who did not know how to give it. It is the fear that stops someone from trying, dressed up as practicality, dressed up as being realistic. But reality was it was only ever fear wearing a more respectable coat. But alongside regret, tomorrow has also seen something else, something quieter and less discussed. It has seen how many people carried shame for things that were never truly their fault. How many blame themselves for storms they did not create or could not have stopped. Not everything that goes wrong in life is a lesson waiting to be learned. Sometimes the thing is simply hard, and surviving it is enough. There is no need to extract a lesson from every wound just to make the pain feel useful. Hope, too, has a shape, though it is harder to describe, because hope rarely looks the way people expect. It is not always the loud, triumphant kind you see in the stories told about it. More often, hope is a small, stubborn thing. It is a person setting an alarm for the next morning, even after a day that broke them a little. It is someone learning a new language at 50, not because they need it, but because some quiet part of them still believes in a version of themselves not yet finished. It is a mother folding tiny clothes for a child who has not yet arrived. Hope in its truest form is very dramatic. It is simply the decision to keep showing up for a life that has not yet proven itself worth the trouble, and somehow that decision repeated daily in rooms nobody is watching is one of the most quietly courageous things a person can do. Fear moves differently through life than most people admit. In youth, fear tends to be loud. The dark room, the exam, the fear of not being chosen, of not being enough, of being laughed at in front of people whose names will be forgotten within a decade. But somewhere in the middle of life, fear changes its voice. It grows quieter, more persistent. It becomes the fear of time itself, the sentence that the road behind is now longer than the road ahead. And still later for those who reach that far, fear can stop, fear can soften into something closer to a question than a threat. Not what if this happens, but what was any of it for? That question was any of it for is perhaps the one tomorrow hits most often. In one form or another, whispered in hospital rooms and empty kitchens and long car rides taken along. And it does not answer it, because that is not its place. That answer was never meant to come from a perspective on time. It was only ever meant to come from within the person asking, or from the one who placed that question here to begin with. But tomorrow has noticed a pattern among those who seem to find peace with that question, even without the final answer. It is rarely the people who achieved the most, it is almost always the people who loved carefully, who forgave more than they owed, who were patient with people who did not deserve patience, simply because patience was the kind of person they had decided to become. It is the people who prayed quietly and consistently, not for a spectacle, but because they understood themselves as small and grateful within something much larger than their own plans. It is the people who gave without being seen, given. This is a particular kind of person of tomorrow has watched again and again across every culture, every era, every language. It is a person who's near the end stops asking what they accumulate and starts remembering who they were kind to. Nobody in their final honest moment wishes they had owned more. They wish they had forgiven sooner. They wish they had said the difficult, tender thing inside of swallowing it. They wish they had noticed the ordinary Tuesday for what it was, while it was still happening. instead of only understanding its worth in the rearview mirror of memory. Every life is also a long sequence of choices, most of them so small they never feel like choices at all. Whether to answer the phone or let it ring, whether to say the honest thing or the easy thing, whether to stay five more minutes in conversation that matter to someone else, even though you had somewhere else to be. Tomorrow has noticed that people rarely remember the large, dramatic decisions as clearly as they remember these small ones. Because because the small ones repeat. A single choice made once is an event. The same choice made 1,000 times becomes a character. And in this way, the person is not built by the decisions they announce to others. The career change, the move, the proposal, a person is built quietly, invisibly, but by what they choose, when nobody is measuring them at all. There is a comfort hidden in this, though it rarely feels like a comfort at first. It means the version of yourself you are becoming is not fixed by your worst days. The ones you replay at night with regret, it is shaped, more than anything, by the direction of your ordinary choices, repeated over the ordinary length of a life. One person does not become kind by one act of kindness, and a person does not wound by one act of unkindness. Character is the kind that lasts, is closer to a current than a single wave. It is built the same way a canyon is built, not by floods but by water, choosing the same path, gently for a very long time. Aging, too, is something tomorrow has watched closely, and it has noticed how different people carry it. Some resist it the way a person resists rain, as though refusing to acknowledge the sun might keep them dry. Others walk into it slowly, almost gracefully, the way you might walk into a familiar house after a long journey. The body changes its terms with time. That much is true for everyone. But someone else changes too. Something less spoken about. The urgency of youth, the need to prove, to win, to be seen, tends to quiet with the years. And in its place, for those willing to let it arrive, comes something gentler, a kind of attention, a willingness finally to sit still and actually listen to another person's whole sentence instead of composing a reply before they're finished. Relationships are in the end the material most lives are built from, far more than achievements or possessions. Tomorrow has seen how rarely people remember the exact words of an argument and how vividly they remember whether they were made to feel safe or small in someone's presence. It has seen how a single steady person, one who simply stayed, who simply kept showing up through the unremarkable years, can matter more to a life than any accomplishment ever could. Love, the kind that lasts, rarely looks like the version shown in stories. It looks like patience repeated on a Tuesday. It looks like choosing someone again, quietly, without applause, for the thousands of ordinary time. And then there's death, which every person eventually walks toward. Though almost everyone spends their years pretending the road bends somewhere else, tomorrow does not know what waits past that horizon. No day, no hour, no passing moment holds that knowledge. It belongs only to the one who created time and will one day fold it closed. But tomorrow has stood near enough to the threshold again and again. Across every life it has watched to notice something those who avoided thinking about it. They were the ones who thought about it early and often and let their thoughts quietly reorganize what they gave their days to. They stopped postponing graduate. Somewhere tonight, someone will fall asleep assuming there will be another morning to say the thing they meant to say. Most of the time they will be right, and the ordinary morning will arrive exactly as expected, and there will still be time, but every so often, quietly, without ceremony, that assumption would not hold, and someone would be left standing in the room, and is gone still, holding words that were never spoken. You do not need to live in fear of that. Fear was never intended lesson. Perhaps tonight, before the gap between the night and the next days, next day opens again, there is one small ordinary thing worth doing, a message worth sending, a person worth forgiving, a moment worth actually noticing, instead of rushing past it toward whatever feels more urgent. Tomorrow is not waiting to judge you for what you missed. It simply keeps arriving, day after day, patient and unhurried, often offering you the same quiet chance it has offered everyone who ever lived, to meet this ordinary day as though it might one day turn out to have been the one that mattered most. These were reflections of Mosy Kan. If you like this, subscribe.